Good day, everyone. Welcome to Real Conservative Headline News. I'm your host, Nathaniel Rajkumar. Starting off locally here in Trinidad and Tobago, Economist Dr. Indera Sagewan says Finance Minister Davendranath Tancoo was left with very little option as she defended government's move to increase some taxes in the past year. Speaking on Trinidad and Tobago today, she reflected on some of the harsh fiscal measures taken by the UNC administration in their first year in office, adding that it was a direct result of what the government inherited. She's correct about that, The economy, the treasury was almost bankrupt. Your own precious PNM leaders, high-ranking members, asked government officials where they were going to find the funds in order to be able to accomplish their goals. You don't ever hear those kind of things, people. The PNM patriots don't hear when their own PNM officials making those statements. My response: the Kamala administration was given an almost impossible task to revive our nation's economy in the shortest space of time possible. But the reality remains that imposing new taxes, fees, and fines wasn't only a form of betrayal, because he said he was going to do it, but also counterproductive. You cannot tax a nation into recovery or prosperity. However, having said that, I honestly believe that most of the policies and laws which have been implemented by this new administration, will ensure that TNT will once again become a safer and more prosperous nation. So in spite of the fees and the fines and so forth, we are still on the road to recovery. I'm truly hoping and praying for the day to come when the backbone of our economy, the oil refinery, is finally reopened. I don't want to continue hearing about this talk, and negotiations. Bunilal, get it open, please. We really need it. We need it before the elections in 2030. Sadly, UNC is always given one term in office to fix PNM's decades of destruction, and therefore in 2030, we all know what may end up being the outcome. Most patriots who stayed home last year, PNM patriots who stayed home last year, who were really fed up on the PNM, they didn't vote for UNC though, but they stayed home. About 1/3 of the PNM party stayed home, and some moderate PNMites that don't really care much about tribalism voted for the UNC. So most patriots who stayed home last year will come out in their tens of thousands to remove the yellows from office. Locals will know why I said yellows. I hope I'm wrong about that though. But thus far, that's exactly what happened in the 90s and early 2000s. Especially once you don't perform perfectly. That's how what Trinis do. Trinis always end up going back to their first love. PNM patriots in particular go back to their first love, the PNM. And we talk about the moderates. Because the radicals don't ever vote for UNC anyhow you take it. But you do need the moderates to vote for the UNC. But you have to satisfy them fully, which never happens with any government, anyhow you take it. I'm not trying to make excuses for some of the errors that the UNC made, but that doesn't mean you need to go back to vote for the PNM. That totally destroys our country over and over again, time and time again. And then you expect another party to come and fix all the problems in the shortest space of time possible.
The Prime Minister, the Minister of Finance don't have a money tree. And if you inherit a situation where the pattern of expenditure over income has been one that the former exceeds the latter over a 10-year period, then you have to make some very hard decisions.
Economist Dr. Indera Sagewan says certain tax measures taken over the past year must be understood in the context of an economy already in crisis when the administration took office.
Previous administration would have ran a budget with a deficit of close to $10 billion, 5.5% of GDP. Our debt to GDP ratio was in the vicinity of about 84%. We had a foreign exchange crisis. Employment generation was at an all-time low. And the very Prime Minister himself at the time told us, with our dragon, our cuckoo cook.
Due to this, she said government spent much of its first year keeping the economy afloat.
And to a large extent, I would say that this administration has spent at least the first 6 months in crisis management, trying to get a handle on where things are financially, and then trying to see how best they could put the country on a footing of towards stability, even before we could talk about growth.
She said early moves in the energy sector were encouraging, but warned against repeating past dependence.
The energy sector, even in its heyday, only employed 3% of the country's labor force. 3% out of 600,000 persons. That's just about 30,000 individuals. successive governments over time, they've used that money in order to generate employment through a very large public service. The entire state enterprises network through works like programs such as OJT, CPEP, URP. That money has allowed that to happen, but it's not a sustainable model.
Ultimately, she said the government's performance will be judged on whether stability becomes growth.
The Prime Minister was very clear that her association with the United States since she came into office has been primarily about securing the country, securing our borders, securing us against the criminal elements. But I feel that a lot more needs to be done because crime impacts everything. It impacts whether foreign investors will come here and put their money into the revitalization plan. It affects whether tourism will see the kind of growth that we want.
She said 2026 will remain a tight year with no quick fixes available, warning that rebuilding Trinidad and Tobago will require patience from the entire country. Sonolala, TTT News.
The Auditor General has raised concerns over significant spending on incomplete school infrastructure projects. Who left them abandoned? Now, I'm not saying that the Auditor General trying to blame the UNC here. I'm asking you all P&M patriots outside here, who left many men? No, not many men. Many schools abandoned for 10 years. Why? Just out of spite. Because Kamla built them. A recent report reveals that hundreds of millions of dollars have been invested in projects that are yet to be completed. Some of them probably weren't built by, I don't even know if P&M built any schools at all. Even if they did, probably just take long to complete it. No transparency and accountability, and they were left incomplete. The latest report from Auditor General Jayawanti Ramdas indicates that nearly $677 million has been spent on several school construction projects that remain unfinished. According to the findings, a number of these sites have been left abandoned or become overgrown despite the level of investment. Overgrown. 10 years in Watalandia. Abandonment. Beautiful, wonderful schools that could have benefited both P&M and UNC citizens, left abandoned by the P&M. According to the findings, a number of these sites have been left abandoned or have become overgrown despite the level of investment. The report raises concerns about delays in project execution, as well as the need for stronger oversight and monitoring of public sector infrastructure works. It also points to the potential impact on the education sector, as incomplete projects may affect the availability of school spaces and the timely delivery of facilities for students.
Weather report for Thursday, April 30th, Trinidad and Tobago. Summary of conditions. Daytime predominantly sunny and hot with a high of 32 degrees Celsius. A few partly cloudy spells may occur, particularly near hilly areas, and there is a low chance of isolated late evening showers. Nighttime, mostly fair and cool with a low of 24 degrees Celsius. Marine and dust, moderate seas are expected with waves up to 2.0 meters in open waters. Mild concentrations of Saharan dust are expected, so persons with respiratory sensitivities should take precautions. Key metrics. Heat index, expected to reach 36 degrees Celsius, making it feel significantly hotter than the actual air temperature. UV index, level 9 very high. Sun protection is recommended between 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Wind, gentle to moderate breezes from the east to southeast at 5 to 30 kilometers per hour. Tides, spring tides will be in effect. Low tide is expected at 4:32 a.m. and 5:04 p.m. High tide is expected at 10:48 a.m. and 11:21 p.m.
The expansion of the Enmore Estate Road into a four-lane highway represents a pivotal shift in Guyana's national infrastructure, specifically designed to bridge the gap between the congested capital and the burgeoning industrial potential of the East Coast Demerara. As part of a massive US $192 million project extending the railway embankment from Sheriff Street toward Mahaika, this construction serves as the logistical backbone for the upcoming Enmore Industrial Estate and Sugar Refinery. We need that in Trinidad too, sugar refinery, man. Do we have any smaller one though? Was it just Caroni? By transforming a traditional agricultural thoroughfare into a high-capacity corridor, the government aims to alleviate chronic traffic bottlenecks while providing the necessary connectivity for large-scale manufacturing and commercial growth. Currently nearing completion under the execution of China Railway First Group, the road is not merely a transport upgrade, but a catalyst for regional economic revitalization, turning a former sugar belt into a modern hub for trade and employment. The People's National Party's thief in the night accusation highlighted deepening political rift over Jamaica's fiscal strategy, specifically targeting the government's pre-dawn approval of general consumption tax on short-term rentals. Right about that concern, taxing isn't the solution, people. New taxes. This legislative move passed during a marathon session to help fund a US $8.8 billion recovery effort following Hurricane Melissa, seeks to formalize the booming Airbnb-style market by raising the sector's tax rate from 10% to the standard 15%. My Lord. While the administration argues that the measure ensures a level playing field with traditional hotels, the opposition contends that the lack of public consultation and the timing of the vote undermine democratic transparency. Ultimately, the controversy underscores the tension between the state's urgent need for the disaster-related revenue and potential economic impact on small-scale property owners who have become a vital pillar of the local tourism industry. You were doing well for the past 10 years, and that's why probably people voted for you, Andrew Holness, and now you're coming and resorting to taxation in order to generate revenue. That's disappointing, though. Global Affairs Canada says it remains committed to supporting women entrepreneurs and is encouraged by programs proposed by the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines to benefit various groups, including women. Speaking at the launch of the Generating Resilience and Inclusive Trade Project in SVG on Monday, Second Secretary at the High Commission in Barbados, Thai Trang Nguyen, said the initiative is of particular interest because it will explore export opportunities, including access to the Canadian market. When added that the program offered by GRIT is designed to meet the needs of women and help grow their businesses. Wonderful news, of course.
Canada remains a reliable trading partner for the Caribbean, and initiatives such as CaribCan continue to offer meaningful opportunities for Caribbean exporters. We recognize St. Vincent and the Grenadines' efforts to deepen business and investment ties with Canada through its diaspora. And we also see GRIT as a practical way to operationalize this agenda by connecting women-led MSMEs with diaspora and community, unlocking patient capital, business mentorship, and export opportunities that turn diaspora ties into tangible economic outcomes that are mutually beneficial. We know that there are still persistent barriers like access to finance, access to new export markets, business networks, and tailored skills development. We recognize that for many women entrepreneurs, building a business often means doing it alongside family responsibilities, limited time, and real financial risk, and that resilience is not theoretical, but lived. This is exactly where GRIT adds value. Through targeted technical assistance, capacity building, and market linkage support, GRIT will help businesses in St. Vincent and the Grenadines become more competitive, more resilient, and better positioned to benefit from regional and international trade.
The Central Bank of Barbados report of 1.7% growth for the first quarter of 2026 marks a significant milestone, representing 20 consecutive quarters of uninterrupted economic growth. People, that is probably one of the main reasons why Barbadians continue to vote for Mia Mottley. This sustained upward trajectory, driven largely by robust performances in the tourism, construction, and services sectors, underscores the island's resilience in the face of persistent global economic volatility and inflationary pressures. By achieving broad-based gains, the economy has managed to maintain momentum beyond its initial post-pandemic recovery phase, signaling a transition into a period of more stabilized long-term growth. However, the central bank's findings also serve as a reminder that while domestic pillars like high-end tourism and infrastructure projects remain strong, the pace of future expansion will stay closely tied to international market stability and the continued management of the national debt levels. And of course, they need a whole lot of the colonial money in order to enrich themselves in Barbados. And right now, you're making friends with China and Venezuela. So they can really help you that much. My goodness. I'm telling you, tribalism causes people to end up being counterproductive in their actions. A Free National Movement candidate's recent condemnation of the government's tax stance regarding molten salt reflects an intensifying political debate over the economic future of Inagua in Bahamas and the integrity of the country's industrial sector. At the heart of the controversy is a multi-million-dollar transfer tax dispute that has stalled the sale of Morton Bahamas to the Lusca Group, prompting the company to announce significant job cuts and reduce benefits for its workforce. By accusing the administration of prioritizing short-term tax revenue over the job security of hundreds of Bahamians, the FNM is framing the crisis as a failure of government negotiation and a direct threat to the primary economic engine of the Southern Islands. This clash underscores the broader election-year tension between fiscal enforcement and industrial preservation, as the opposition seeks to position itself as the more business-friendly alternative capable of resolving high-stakes stalemates that jeopardize local livelihoods. For now, I have no idea which of these parties really lean on the PNM side. All I know, whichever one does, don't vote for them.
Right now, today, on Inagua, the people of Matthew Town are staring down the most painful example yet. On June 1st, just about a month away, Morton Salt employees and contractors are about to lose their jobs. 100 plus Bahamians, our sons, our daughters, mothers, fathers, families are being affected.
With the options presented to the staff of either a 75% redundancy package or a 20-hour work week, Ferguson describes the move as one that will cripple the pockets of Inaguans.
Imagine the single largest employer on the island cutting 3 out of 4 jobs and reducing the remaining workers to 20 hours a week. That sound like progress? The question is why? Because the PLP government chooses to maintain its position of unforeseen new taxes and allow the pending sale to collapse, putting more than 100 Bahamian livelihoods at risk.
International news now. A reporter asked, do you have an update on the UFO files? Asking Trump this, President Trump. President Trump said, I think we are going to be releasing as much as we can in the near future. I've interviewed people on my first term primarily, but I interviewed some pilots, very solid people, and they said they saw things that you wouldn't believe. So you're going to be reading about it. Now, people bear in mind that probably, I don't know if President Trump knows this, and if the pastors that speak to Trump let him know that the Bible says that there are principalities and powers in high places. These are not different creatures living on different planets in the solar system and in the world, or in other parts of the universe, people. These are fallen angels that can take up any form, and of course will have knowledge about technology and stuff like that. And that's what these pilots and other individuals have been seeing for many, many years now. They are not a different creation that God made separate to us as mankind. They're just fallen angels.
Mr. President, I have two questions for you. First, on the topic of space, do you have an update on the UFO files and when we're going to be seeing those?
Well, I think we're going to be releasing as much as we can in the near future. For some reason, and I guess it's just a reason that's been in the minds of people for a long time, that is such, they want to find out about the UFOs and anything having to do with UFO or related material, and we're going to be releasing a lot of things that we have, and I think some of it's going to be very interesting to people. I've interviewed people, my first term primarily, but I interviewed some pilots, very solid people, and they said they saw things that you wouldn't believe. So you're going to be reading about it.
Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and President Trump just finished yesterday, had a long phone call that naturally focused on the Iranian issue. Of course, a source familiar with the details of the conversation said the call lasted about an hour and was very good and very useful. It should be noted that Netanyahu and Trump speak almost daily. That's a good relationship. And not every conversation is published in the media. The call yesterday evening was made by the Prime Minister after a brief security consultation. In the past day, Netanyahu said in close conversations that Trump is determined regarding the naval blockade on Iran, but has not yet decided whether to return to fighting. However, the situation is very fluid and can change at any moment. Meanwhile, Netanyahu, the modern-day Jehu, makes it clear to even Trump that individuals like terrorist groups like Hezbollah will continue to be targeted because they continue to violate the ceasefire agreement. So they have a good relationship, but just like with any other relationship, you don't agree on every issue.
Bible quote of the day. Joel chapter 3 verse 17 to 21. Then you will know that I, the Lord your God, dwell in Zion, my holy hill. Jerusalem will be holy, never again will foreigners invade her. In that day the mountains will drip new wine, and the hills will flow with milk, all the ravines of Judah will run with water. A fountain will flow out of the Lord's house, and will water the valley of acacias. But Egypt will be desolate, Edom a desert waste, because of violence done to the people of Judah, in whose land they shed innocent blood. Judah will be inhabited forever, and Jerusalem through all generations. Shall I leave their innocent blood unavenged? No, I will not. The Lord dwells in Zion.
Folks, that brings us to the end of today's headline news. Thanks again to everyone who continues to support my content. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Stay blessed and stay safe most of all. In Jesus' name.